Welcome to Learn English by 24/7 Stories. Today, we'll listen to a beautiful moral story titled The Glass Heart. And the best part? You'll learn one new English word and one new sentence from this story, which I'll reveal at the end. So, listen carefully till the last line. Let's begin our story, The Glass Heart. Aaron was not like other children of his age. While others played, laughed, and shouted in the sun, Aaron often sat near the river, listening. Not to the water, but to something else, something softer, something sad. He said he could hear the sound of hearts breaking. When people fought, when someone lied, when a friend betrayed another, he could hear a faint crack inside his mind, like a thin piece of glass shattering. No one believed him, of course. They called him Strange Aaron. Even his mother would sigh and say, "Stop listening to sadness, my son. You'll forget how to smile." But Aaron couldn't help it. His heart itself was made of glass, not truly, but in a way that only he could feel. Every harsh word or cruel act left a mark upon it, a little crack. One day, while sitting near the river, he heard a sound louder than ever before. It came from the forest behind the hills, a sound like 100 hearts breaking together. He stood up, eyes wide, and whispered, "Someone is in great pain." He followed the sound through the woods. Birds flew away as if warning him. The wind grew colder. And there, beside an old oak tree, sat a girl, about his age, crying silently. Her name was Lyra. Aaron stood still for a moment. The air around her shimmered faintly, as if sadness itself had taken a form. He asked softly, "Did someone break your heart?" She looked up, startled. "How do you know?" she asked, tears on her face. Aaron smiled sadly. "I heard it." At first, she didn't understand. But when he touched the ground, and a faint glass-like glow spread beneath his hand, she gasped. It was true, she could hear it too, a faint crack echoing from within her chest. She whispered, "Can you fix it?" Aaron shook his head. "No one can fix another's heart. But maybe I can help you hear it until it heals." From that day, they became friends, sitting by the river every evening, listening to their hearts together. Lyra told him about her parents, how her father had left and her mother was always angry. Aaron listened quietly, never judging, never interrupting. Over time, her laughter began to return, soft, unsure, like sunlight through mist. But one evening, as the sky turned golden, Aaron said something strange. "Lyra," he murmured, "every time your heart heals, mine gets weaker." She frowned. "Why?" He looked at his reflection in the river. "Because when I hold someone's pain, a piece of me breaks too." Lyra wanted to speak, but before she could, they both heard another sound, sharp and distant, coming from the village below. A scream. Then another crack, louder than before. Aaron stood up. "That's not one heart breaking," he said. "That's many." He ran downhill. The village was in chaos. People were shouting, throwing stones. An argument between two families had turned into a fight. As Aaron entered the square, the sound of shattering hearts filled his mind like thunder. He fell to his knees, clutching his chest. His glass heart was trembling, ready to break. "Stop," he shouted. But no one heard him. They only shouted louder. Lyra rushed in, terrified, and saw Aaron collapsing. "Aaron. What's happening?" He whispered, "Too much pain, too much breaking." The villagers finally turned, and for the first time, they saw something impossible. Tiny shards of light, like glass fragments, floated around Aaron's chest. And then, silence. Everything stopped. Aaron opened his eyes, glowing faintly, and said only one line. "If you can hear your own heart breaking, you can still save it." Then he fainted. The next morning, silence wrapped the village. Even the birds did not sing. The people gathered around Aaron's small house at the edge of the hill, whispering, afraid. He's still sleeping, said Lyra softly, sitting beside him. A faint shimmer of glass light still glowed beneath his chest. Every time he breathed, it flickered, weakly, like a dying flame. No one dared to enter. The same villagers who once called him strange boy now looked ashamed. The old woman from the bakery said, "He took all our pain upon himself, and we gave him nothing but cruelty." Lyra clenched her fists. If you truly regret it, then stop breaking hearts. But regret is a fragile thing. People say sorry when they are scared, and forget when the fear fades. That night, when everyone had left, Lyra sat alone beside Aaron. Tears slid down her face. "You said no one can fix another's heart," she whispered, "but I'll try. I'll give you mine if I must." Then she heard it, faint but real, a sound from inside her chest, crack. Her own heart breaking again. And yet, something in the air changed. The glow around Aaron's heart brightened slightly, as if her sadness was feeding his recovery. Lyra smiled through tears. Then maybe, love can fix what pain destroyed. By the next sunrise, Aaron opened his eyes. The world looked hazy, soft, distant, like a dream wrapped in glass. "Lyra," he whispered. "You called me back." She smiled. "Someone had to remind your heart that it still matters." He tried to sit up, but the moment he did, a wave of noise hit him, hundreds of faint cracks echoing from the village below. He winced. "They're fighting again." Lyra shook her head. "No. They're afraid. Their hearts are too weak to stay quiet." Aaron closed his eyes. "Then I must go to them." "Not now," she said. "You'll break again." He looked at her sadly. "If I don't, they will." By afternoon, Aaron stood in the village square once more. Everyone turned to look, whispering, shocked that he could even walk. "Why have you come back?" asked the blacksmith, shame in his eyes. Aaron looked around, at the arguing families, the jealous neighbors, the sad children. And then he said, "Because I realized something, you all think your hearts are safe inside your chest. But they're not. They live in every word you speak." He took a deep breath, then placed his hand on the ground. A ripple of faint light spread beneath everyone's feet, glass-like, glowing softly. "Now," he said gently, "listen." The villagers fell silent. And then they heard it, faint but clear, the sound of tiny cracks inside themselves. Every angry thought, every harsh word, every forgotten kindness, they could hear it. Gasps spread through the crowd. "My heart," whispered one man. "It's broken." "Mine too," said a woman, trembling. Aaron nodded. "You see. You break your hearts every day, not with stones, not with swords, but with words." He stepped forward, looking at them with tired eyes. "But just as easily, you can heal them." "How?" asked the old baker. "Forgive," said Aaron softly. "Say something kind. Speak gently. Every kind word is a drop of sunlight on the cracks." For a long moment, no one spoke. Then, from the back, a young boy came forward. It was the blacksmith's son. He walked to a girl his age and whispered, "I'm sorry I called you poor." A faint shimmer appeared near them, a soft golden glow. The villagers gasped again. "It's working," someone cried. Soon, more people began to whisper apologies, kind words, blessings. The entire square slowly filled with light, not blinding, but warm and healing. Lyra stood beside Aaron, watching him smile faintly. "It's beautiful," she whispered. Aaron nodded. This is what a healed heart sounds like. But then, he suddenly stumbled. The light around him flickered, his chest glowing too bright. "Aaron!" Lyra cried, catching him. "What's happening?" He looked at her with a calm, peaceful smile. "My heart is finally full. It can't hold any more pain." Tears welled up in Lyra's eyes. No. You're not leaving. He touched her hand gently. When people remember kindness, I will still be here, in every sound, in every forgiveness. And with that, his glow spread outward, covering the village in a soft wave of light. Every crack vanished. Every wound healed. When the light faded, Aaron was gone. Only a single glass shard remained, glowing softly in the dust. Lyra picked it up, and heard a faint whisper inside it. If you can hear your own heart, you can change the world. The night after Aaron's light spread across the village, the stars seemed closer. The air smelled of rain and hope. And in the quiet, Lyra sat by the old oak tree where they first met, holding the small glass shard close to her chest. It pulsed softly, thump, thump, like a heartbeat. Sometimes, when she pressed it to her ear, she could hear his voice, faint, like the wind whispering through water. Listen to the world, Lyra. It still needs healing. She smiled sadly. I will, she whispered. I'll be your voice. Days passed. The village slowly changed. People spoke more gently, smiled more often, helped one another. But there were still travelers passing through, tired, angry, bitter souls who carried storms inside them. Lyra would watch them from afar, holding the shard tight. Whenever someone quarreled, the shard would shimmer, faintly, like it was warning her. She learned to listen, just as Aaron once did. One evening, a merchant came to the village, a rough man with sharp eyes and louder words. He shouted at the children, scolded the women, cheated in trade. Every time he spoke, the shard in Lyra's hand grew warmer, as if burning with sadness. That night, she found him by the river, counting coins. She stepped closer and said softly, "You must be very lonely." The man looked up, startled. "What do you mean?" She sat down beside him. "You shout because you think no one listens. But anger doesn't make people hear you, it only makes them afraid." He frowned, then laughed bitterly. "What do you know of fear, girl?" Lyra held up the shard. It glowed softly in the moonlight. "I know the sound of hearts breaking." The merchant stared, confused, until he heard it too. A faint crack echoed inside his chest. He gasped. What is that?" "Your heart," Lyra said gently. "It's asking you to forgive yourself." The man's hands trembled. He dropped his coins into the river and began to cry. No one had ever spoken to him that way. No one had ever heard his heart before. When he left the village the next morning, he was smiling, softly, genuinely, for the first time in years. Over time, stories about the girl with the whispering shard spread across valleys and mountains. People came from distant lands to see her. Some brought grief, some brought guilt, some brought anger, and all left lighter. Wherever she went, she listened, not to words, but to hearts. Sometimes, she said nothing. Sometimes, she just smiled, and that was enough. But even healers grow weary. One winter night, as snow covered the roofs, Lyra sat alone in her small home. The shard lay on the table, glowing faintly. She whispered, "Aaron, it's been years. The world still breaks faster than I can mend it." For a long time, there was silence. Then, for the first time in years, she heard his voice, clear, calm, loving. "You were never meant to mend the world alone, Lyra. Teach others to listen, as you once listened to me." Her eyes widened. The shard glowed brighter, brighter than ever before. And suddenly, it cracked, splitting into hundreds of tiny pieces that floated in the air like stars. Each shard drifted away, through windows, down streets, across mountains, finding its way to people everywhere. To a crying child in another village. To a mother missing her son. To a man regretting his past. Each person who touched a shard could suddenly hear their heart, its cracks, its hopes, its forgiveness. Lyra stood beneath the glowing rain of glass, tears in her eyes. The world shimmered, alive with sound. And in the wind, she heard Aaron's laughter again. Now every heart can hear itself, Lyra. You've set the world free. Years later, when travelers came to that same mountain village, they found a small shrine near the river, built from glass that shone in sunlight. On it were carved 3 simple lines. Listen before you speak. Heal before you judge. Love before you break. And beneath it, a small note signed in soft handwriting. Lyra, the girl who learned to listen. As evening fell, the sunlight passed through the glass walls, scattering tiny rainbows across the village. Children laughed, lovers forgave, elders smiled. No one heard hearts breaking anymore, only beating. Because now, every person had a tiny shard of light within them, a reminder of Aaron, the boy with the glass heart. Moral of the story. If you can hear your own heart, truly hear it, you'll never break another's again. Kindness doesn't need power. It just needs listening. So, dear friends, this was The Glass Heart, a story about kindness and forgiveness. And now, it's time to learn our new English word and sentence. The word is forgiveness, which means to let go of anger and heal with love. And the sentence is: forgiveness makes your heart light. Repeat it with me: forgiveness makes your heart light. If you liked this story and learned something new today, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Learn English by 24/7 Stories, where every story teaches you a word, a sentence, and a life lesson. See you in the next story. Until then, keep learning, keep smiling, and keep listening with your heart.